Today is Thursday, September 25th, 2025, and I am down over 3% today on a day where the NASDAQ is down slightly over 0.5%. So it looks like my Roth IRA is actually more in line with the NASDAQ right now. But to update you guys on my recent transactions, I believe I last left off on my Robinhood covered call that I sold for $100. And then today I did go ahead and start a position in Cava. It's a very small position, only 5 shares. And then of course I closed my Robinhood covered call, only had $11 left on it. The likelihood of Robinhood hitting 131 basically by tomorrow is very low, but given my history with Robinhood stock and me knowing how volatile that stock is, I was like, look, that $11 just isn't worth it. I'm just going to go ahead and close that contract out so I can just have my 100 shares back. But it is crazy to think that if I sold 10 contracts yesterday, right, 10 of those Robinhood 131 covered calls expiring on the 26th, if I sold 10 contracts, that would be $1,000. And I basically would have made $900 in one day, which would have been a much better hedge than that one covered call. But it is what it is. You know, I made $90 in basically one day. And then I went ahead and got my Robinhood Gold card finally, and they did credit me back $23 because I already had Robinhood Gold, but now apparently they're going to start charging it on the Gold card, so they're just refunding me my unused amount. So it is what it is. I guess it's going to go to my monthly interest payment or whatever. And then I did go ahead and buy some more MAA, which is a REIT that I've been slowly building up. It did dip under $140 a share, so I thought, why not just buy 3 more shares of it? And for a quick little update on my Roth IRA, I did go ahead and buy a share of Cava, a share of Chipotle, and a little bit more of Sweetgreen. Because if you look at the charts for any of those, I did show a little bit on my previous video. The chart for Sweetgreen and Cava are looking very similar, but also Chipotle, the chart of that also looks very similar to Cava and Sweetgreen, with that huge gap above where the stock is currently. So I thought might as well go ahead and at least do a starter position so I wouldn't forget about it later. But what I'm thinking is, I think these food stocks are going to be like my next mini swing. So I did have a little bit more clothing stocks before, during the whole Sydney Sweeney, Kohl's, American Eagle. When all of that was going on, I was swinging the clothing stocks, but now it kind of seems like Sweetgreen, Chipotle, Cava, all these food stocks are going to be my next swing. And I'm probably going to have to go harder on these because I didn't buy... Oh, actually, I have VFC and I have Nike, but I didn't buy Kohl's or American Eagle in my main account, which looking back now, it was kind of a mistake because they are up a decent amount if we look at total percentages. So Kohl's, American Eagle, Levi's, they did dip a little bit recently, but I do think they were up a lot more. If we look at the last price, yeah, Kohl's, I believe it tagged $20 a share. American Eagle, same thing. And they also pay dividends. So I did kind of miss out on it in my main brokerage account. So I might be more inclined to swing these these food stocks in my main brokerage account. But of course, keep in mind, I do have other separate accounts that I don't like always show you guys. I do somewhat update you guys on my E-Trade account that I don't really do much in other than some speculative trades here and there. But I do have some other brokerage accounts that I don't really publicly show. It's basically the same as my Robinhood, except it's less concentrated, a little bit more diversified. You know, I have some ETFs in there, a little bit more boring, which is why I don't really show it. And I also don't show it to like clog up my YouTube videos too much, but I will most likely be swinging these food stocks in those accounts as well. But if we look down, I do have a bunch of covered calls on Palantir and Robinhood still. And my Nike cash secured put, which was doing good when it tagged $80, is now not doing so good. I believe Nike is under $70 again. Yep. So unfortunately, Nike is struggling again. Same thing with PayPal. If you take a look at my total percentage returns, I am still well above 1,000% returns in my Robinhood. So I am happy about that. And while looking at my Robinhood account today, I noticed something that I've noticed plenty of times in my previous videos. Whenever we would have these red days or like super volatile days, I would always notice EA is almost always green whenever the market is red or my account in general is red. And it's just so weird to me because you wouldn't really think that EA is a flight to safety stock, right? You would think that maybe something like Pepsi would be a flight to safety and would actually be green on a day like today. But no, Pepsi is down 1.5%, while EA is up 0.79%. So I just think it's kind of strange, but I guess cool. I wish I had a lot more EA because I guess it's like a hedge now in its own weird way. In other news, I finally got my invitation for the Robinhood Gold Card. And first impression, I don't know if it's gonna be the only credit card that I use from now on. You know, I kind of have my own setup going. I have different credit cards for their own individual needs. You know, I see all these like creators on X or on YouTube, they're just overhyping the Gold Card. Maybe it's because they're Robinhood referrals or affiliates, I should say. And they're just, you know, trying to be nice with the company or whatever. And don't get me wrong, it is a very cool card and it is very innovative in its own way. For example, all of these virtual cards where they're basically disposable card numbers, and you can also manage your reoccurring expenses on the actual app itself. And you also have these free trial cards that auto cancel after 24 hours. So this is super useful for any of those really annoying subscriptions where you have to like call the company, or you're trying to do like this 7-day free trial to maybe like one of these stock market services, and they force you to put in your card number. And it's a 7-day free trial, so they're hoping that you forget about it so they can auto charge your card. So things like these are super useful. And another thing that Robinhood has as a feature is a single use card. So it auto cancels after one use, which is once again super useful. And I actually could see myself using these features. Just to briefly go over some stuff that I've seen trending or just on my X in general, I did see that Starbucks is actually going to cut about 900 jobs, and RH apparently is crashing today because of Trump discussing some furniture tariffs. And then of course we have Vlad today announcing that shorting is going to be on Robinhood soon, which they also announced at their event. But it's good to see Vlad confirming it on his page. Something else that I kind of thought was funny while scrolling through X was Legitimate Targets. It's an X, I guess, news account. They're a little bit more on the right, I would say. And they said an Israeli company purchased ExpressVPN, and Israeli firms now control 8 major VPN companies. And then we have a community note that says this happened about 4 years ago, so it's not breaking news. I just thought that was kind of funny. And I thought it was somewhat important to share just because I know some of you guys might also be scrolling through X, and you might actually use X as your personal news service. And I just wanted to point this out because you shouldn't immediately believe everything you see on the internet, which is obvious, but because we as a society have gotten a little bit more reliant on social media, I would say, especially like news-wise, right? Personally, I use YouTube and X and all these social media sites as the news. And I also watch Bloomberg News, of course, but you get my point. And I just think it's important to put things into context and not immediately be swayed. Obviously, this page, Legitimate Targets, they're trying to make some political statement, of course, with current events that are going on. And so perhaps they dig up something that happened in the past that might spark up, I guess, anger or more of an emotional reaction now because of current events that, you know, I'm not going to touch on because I'm not a political YouTube channel. But obviously, the timing of this is because of current events. And I just think it's important to put things into context. and things like community notes are very important. And then I also saw today Trueflation says expected GDP was 3.3, but actual GDP was 3.8. So stronger growth than expected could possibly mean next time the Fed needs to make a decision, it could just be a hold instead of another cut like a lot of people are expecting. And finally, of course, we get to your guys' comments on my previous video. We have TES saying, I like how you went over the charts. The technical analysis was good. I agreed on God topic 2. Appreciate you. And you also said stocks seem to be correcting, crashing, but I only trade options. Luckily, I took profit on Tuesday before the correction. I'm up 45% in my portfolio from BBAI this week, but my port is small. And congrats to you for being up 45% in your portfolio today, or this week, I should say. Keep in mind, as your account size grows and as your net worth grows, you'll kind of start to think about diversifying a little bit, kind of like how I've been doing. Maybe not to the extent that I should be doing, because you could argue that I should be reducing my Robinhood size and going a lot harder into some of my dividend stocks like MAA or REPX or Pepsi. And obviously, if I did that, my income, not my net worth, but my income would go up because I would get that dividend income. But we'll see how things shake out from here. We have Predictive Neo saying, what got you into stocks? I'm super passionate about stocks, curious what got you into stocks and what helped you excel. So I think I did have some videos in the past about this, but just to give you a little brief rundown, I was like 19 years old. I didn't know anything about finance, anything about stocks. I didn't know anybody that was into finance, but I would always overhear people talking about it. Like whenever I would go to work or go to school, or just in public in general. Like this one time I was in Publix and there was a guy in the chip aisle just talking about day trading Apple call options, which was close to the 2021 peak. So just a little heads up for you guys, if you ever are walking around in public and random people are talking about day trading Apple call options, we're probably getting close to the top. But back to the subject at hand. I would always hear people talking about stocks, but I didn't know what it was. So finally, I stopped procrastinating. I finally Googled what the heck the stock market is, what the heck are stocks. And then through that, I found Robinhood, of course, because that's like the beginner app, or at least back then, that was known as the beginner app. And I still remember the first stock I ever bought was one share of AT&T. And honestly, it's probably the same price as when I bought it back then. I haven't checked it since, but as for what got me into stocks, obviously, I just wanted to make more money. And, everybody to some extent is interested in money. So I just really liked the idea of possibly someday retiring just off of your money, right? Just off of your assets, and the idea of actually owning a company. It was just really intriguing to me. So that's just kind of how I got into it. We have Infamous Jack saying, what music you listen to? I like to try to listen to a little bit of anything, but mostly it's just going to be hip hop and rap, obviously. Then we have Hide Your Family saying hood equals beauty. Okay. And then we have Some Dry Suck. Okay. He says, or she, I'm not judging. Just started watching your vids. You're doing great. Keep it up. Looking into Sweet Green. I don't like what I see very much. Negative profit. Not really seeing revenue growth. And I feel like it will always be overshadowed by companies like HelloFresh of Flex Pro Meals. I don't really know what that is. Just wanted your thoughts and how you picked out companies you like to invest in. Thank you, sir. So I believe in that it was in my last video where I kind of briefly showed you guys how I go about picking stocks. I'll ask Grok the handful of metrics that you guys see, just kind of get Grok's responses and the financial metrics that I like looking at. And then I'll check the charts to see if technically it kind of looks okay. But I also have a video why I bought Robinhood at $10 or something like that. So I kind of break it down a little bit more as to my thought process of when I was buying Robinhood at $10. But as for Sweet Green specifically, I know the metrics that Grok gave, according to Grok, their free cash flow is positive, but on Seeking Alpha, it still says negative. So not really sure what's going on there. I'm too lazy to go look at the actual numbers, but I believe Grok said their tangible book value per share was about $1 or something. But according to Seeking Alpha, it's like high $3 or close to $4. So if that's true, Sweet Green is trading at like a 2x price to book, which is arguably cheap. So even if all those numbers are fake or whatever, technically it looks like it could bounce with Chipotle and Kava to fill up that gap, but we'll just have to see from here.